Welcome back. In a moment, we take a look at genetically modified foods. Are they good for us? But first, here are some other stories to keep an eye on. Donald Trump has appointed Army Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster as the government's new national security advisor. The highly regarded military figure is known for his critique of previous administrations. McMaster replaces Michael Flynn, who, controversially, was asked to resign less than 1 month into the role. Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe turns 93 today, making him Africa's oldest head of state. Mugabe is the only ruler the Southern African nation has known since independence from Britain in 1980. Last year, he confirmed that he will stand in the 2018 presidential election. And Nepal's government has announced that it will hold its first local elections in 20 years. A crucial ballot will take place across 700 towns and villages in May. The country has seen a difficult transition to democracy following the abolishment of the 239-year-old monarchy in 2008. Genetically modified organisms are cheaper to produce, more plentiful, and often more nutritious than their natural counterparts. So why have these frankenfoods had such a controversial history? Are they a health risk, or just the next step in food evolution? So-called cash crops, such as soybean and corn, have undergone the most alterations. These crops make the greatest profit, so it's logical to increase their already popular traits. The Flavor Saver tomato was stocked in US supermarkets from 1994. It's the earliest example of GMO produce. The tomato's ability to ripen more slowly meant it could be kept longer, increasing the appeal for shoppers. And genetically modified foods can be designed to hold many valuable traits. Virus-resistant crops limit the risk of a poor harvest. Profits are more secure, and therefore producers are happier. Some crops are redesigned to be more nutritious. Golden rice was developed in the year 2000 with the intention of combating low vitamin A levels. The product received its name from its rich golden colour. A raised tolerance to herbicides and pesticides allow farmers to battle weeds and insects without having to damage their own crops. This means higher yields and greater revenues. And some changes have been more aesthetic. Potatoes have been grown that are less likely to bruise. A pineapple flower that creates uniform, high-quality pineapples. And apples that don't brown. But these clever crops are not without their detractors.
What do we want? Real science! What do we want it now?
Activist groups, politicians and scientists have been debating the safety of the products since their creation. Many groups have suggested that their use is linked to health issues like allergies and cancer. In some cases, cross-pollination can lead to changes in the surrounding environment. Farmers find their herbicides can no longer fight encroaching weeds that have developed a resistance. And animals that previously relied on these crops for food have to move elsewhere, altering the delicate balance in the surrounding ecosystem. Well, still with us is Ludwig Radwan from the Willowbrook farm in Oxfordshire. Now, I use the expression frankenfoods. That's a little inflammatory. It's definitely something that the detractors of this technology you would use because they're scared. If you modify food, it might hurt us in some way. Do you understand that fear?
Absolutely. Plant breeding and even livestock breeding is something we've done over the centuries, and we've obviously seen the benefits of that in various areas. So selective breeding, I think most people would have no problem with. I think it's the rate at which this process is sped up and the source of some of the genetic material that's put into these crops, which can range from animal and other plant substances, which is raising very valid concerns. We've heard about some of the health risks possible for human health, which really we haven't explored over a significant time period.
So there has been a change over time, haven't they? Farmers quite naturally have managed to find ways to breed animals or develop crops that produce a greater yield for the amount of effort they're putting in.
Absolutely.
But we're now stepping way beyond that, is it?
We are. I mean, traditionally that contributed to the diversity. It contributed to different varieties, which would be suited to different contexts, different soils, climates, regions. We're now stepping into an area where it's happening very fast. It's in fact happening in the opposite direction. This is decreasing biodiversity, if anything. And the precautionary principle just suggests that we should evaluate this over a longer time period.
Do you actually get more food for your effort, for the energy or resource you put in with using this GM technology?
Again, it depends in whose hands we're talking about. For most farmers across the developing countries, that wouldn't be true, where there isn't access to fertilizers, isn't access to the levels of water. Often you need more of both of those inputs to achieve the touted levels of production. Where those fail, the GM crops actually produce less than local crops more suited to the climate in the region.
But as we heard, maybe they are more effective because they don't deteriorate, they don't go rotten as quickly, so they're more useful or they're profitable for longer. Is that a factor?
There's an argument there, but then it's also an argument that, again, favours large business production. So if you're shipping avocados from Argentina to the UK, you want them to stay in that state for longer. And therefore, yes, it benefits big business, but that's not necessarily what we're looking for. I think we've all eaten those sort of strawberries or tomatoes from Sainsbury's, and they have almost no taste. Yes, they'll stay fresh for 7 weeks or 8 weeks, but we might be losing something in terms of the nutrient levels and the flavours.
Because in the farming mix, the other, perhaps the counterpoint to GM, is the sort of organic movement, where people, some farmers are going way back to older principles, aren't they, to not use any chemical input at all in the process of food.
Absolutely. If you rely on a GM product, one of the benefits, we're told, is that it has an ability to withstand higher uses of herbicides and pesticides.
Yeah.
Obviously, that can seem as if it's a benefit because you don't have any problems with the crop. But of course, that's being internalized into the product itself, and that's leading to the questions about health implications for humans. In a more organic system, you're managing the environment, you're dealing with levels of pests or herbs at a natural level. What we're getting occurring in GM is what we can call superweeds or superbugs, which are resistant to even these higher levels of chemical use. And they're now transferring into different weeds, grasses, which are infesting land, and therefore we're less able to deal with them even using the pesticides and herbicides.
So not the great solution that some people advocate.
Nothing's ever simple, I think, in life.
No, absolutely not. Lovely Radwan, thank you very much indeed for being with us today.
Thank you.
Let's finish our programme with the Insight Bite. This is a little something that we feel you should know. Elation has quickly turned to concern for conservationists at Ivory Coast's main zoo. After years of sloshing through mangroves and swamps from Senegal to Uganda to discover the world's newest crocodile species, they're now extremely concerned. The West African slender-snouted crocodile is on the path to extinction. The zoo has launched a special breeding programme in the hope they can increase numbers. So far, it's produced around 40 young crocodiles. And with that, that's all from me for now. I'm Martin Stanford. That was Insight.